All right, let's dive into this Dogecoin thing, huh?
Sounds good.
It's been, it's really been making some noise lately.
Yeah, it has.
And your notes tell me you're pretty curious about it.
Definitely.
So, for anyone listening who maybe hasn't heard of Dogecoin, it's a cryptocurrency. Started kind of a joke, actually.
Yeah.
But it's gained some serious traction, especially in these last few months.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got some sources here that give us like a snapshot of where Dogecoin is as of right now, November 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And I think hopefully by looking at these, we can answer some questions like, what's driving this huge price surge?
Right.
Is the $1 target, is that actually realistic, or is that just,
Yeah.
part of the meme, part of the dream?
Yeah, the meme dream.
And how does Dogecoin stack up against, the more, I guess what people consider the more serious cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin, for example?
Exactly, yeah. So what's really interesting is this recent performance of Dogecoin. It's really, it's got a lot of people talking. Even in the crypto world, it's really challenging some ideas.
And it's not just a little jump either. I mean, one of these
Yeah.
sources is pointing out like a 249% increase just in the past month.
Wow.
So back on October 13th, Dogecoin was trading at like 11 cents. And now as we're recording this, November 12th, it's at like, what, $0.39.
Yeah, you're right. That is a huge, huge jump, even for crypto, which can be really volatile. So to really understand why, I think we got to look at what makes Dogecoin different. It's not like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It doesn't have, some groundbreaking technology.
Or a ton of different uses.
Right.
It really is built on a meme, which is,
Mhm.
it's both its strength and its weakness, right? That's so interesting. I'm starting to see why people call it the lottery ticket of crypto. But before we get into the potential for gains and all that, let's talk about the connection to Bitcoin. These sources are all pointing out there's a strong correlation there between Dogecoin's price and how Bitcoin's doing. Can you kind of unpack that relationship?
Sure. Yeah. So it really comes down to what we call market sentiment. So when the overall crypto market is, feeling optimistic and Bitcoin's price is going up, investors are a lot more likely to put money into altcoins, which is basically, any cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin.
Okay.
Dogecoin benefits from that, overall feeling of, hey, crypto is doing great.
Right.
But the flip side of that is if Bitcoin starts to drop, altcoins like Dogecoin, they tend to follow too.
So it's a double-edged sword. Like if you're, interested in crypto, you got to watch Bitcoin really closely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so what are some other factors then that are kind of at play here that are driving Dogecoin's price?
Well, one thing that really stands out is, social media, the influence of that. Dogecoin has a very active community online, very dedicated.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
They're really, really into it.
And the hype that they can generate, it can really have an impact on the price.
And of course, we have to talk about, the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Right.
I mean, the sources are all mentioning him, and his influence is still huge. Even just rumors about what he might be doing can cause these price swings.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. For example, one of the sources is connecting, this speculation about him maybe getting involved in politics again.
Oh, wow.
With some of the fluctuations in Dogecoin's price.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a fascinating example of how, social media and individuals can have so much power in this market.
It really makes you wonder, though, right? Like, is this a sustainable model for a cryptocurrency? I mean, can a meme coin really compete with these giants, with Bitcoin in the long run?
That's a great question. Dogecoin definitely has momentum right now, that's for sure. It's actually in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap now, which is a measure of its overall value.
Okay.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's not nothing, right?
Right.
But I think we need to take a closer look at, its strengths and its weaknesses compared to something like Bitcoin.
Okay, yeah, let's break it down. What's working in Dogecoin's favor?
Well, like we've been saying, it has,
Right.
this incredible momentum fueled by social media and this dedicated community.
Right.
But I think one of its weaknesses is it doesn't really have a lot of real-world use cases.
What do you mean by that?
So unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example, which are being used in all sorts of different industries, Dogecoin is mostly still used for, trading and like tipping people online.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
unlike Bitcoin, which has seen, institutions starting to use it and adopt it, Dogecoin is really dependent on like regular people, retail investors like you and me. So isn't that kind of risky?
It can be, yeah. Retail investors, we tend to be, more influenced by our emotions and the hype, and that can make the market more volatile.
Okay.
And without that, that stability that you get from institutions,
Hmm.
Dogecoin is much more susceptible to those price swings and even to manipulation.
So it's like the potential for gains is definitely there, but it seems like there's also a higher chance of losing money compared to these more like established cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
So what are some of the things that, if you were looking at this, how would you assess the risk?
Well, one thing you can look at are, what we call technical indicators. For example, our sources mention this golden cross pattern that's forming on Dogecoin's price chart.
I've heard that term golden cross, but I could use a little refresher.
Sure, yeah. So the golden cross is basically, it's a pattern that some traders use to try to predict where the price is going to go. And it happens when a short-term moving average, which is basically, the average price over a short period, crosses above a long-term moving average. So you've got these two lines, and when they cross, that's the golden cross.
Okay.
And that's often seen as a bullish signal, meaning it's suggesting that, the price is probably going to keep going up.
So for someone who's following, technical analysis, this is a good sign for Dogecoin.
Exactly. But it's important to remember, technical analysis isn't foolproof. It's just one piece of the puzzle. When you're trying to figure out if you should invest in something,
Right.
you got to consider the fundamentals too. The technology behind it, the team that's developing it, and the overall market conditions.
That makes sense, yeah. It seems like there's a lot to think about with Dogecoin. It's definitely more complex than just a funny meme coin.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
So what are some other things that could influence its future?
Well, we talked about the influence of Elon Musk and, the overall market feeling. Yeah. But another thing to consider is the political landscape. Some of our sources suggest that, political events and potential changes in policies, they could have a big impact on the crypto market as a whole, and Dogecoin in particular. So we'll get into that a bit more in the next part of our deep dive.
That's really interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. The political angle, that's fascinating.
Me too. It really shows how politics, technology, and finance are all kind of coming together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
So yeah, picking up where we left off, let's look a little deeper into these political factors that might be influencing Dogecoin. It's not something you'd usually think about with, a meme coin.
Right.
But the sources, they're suggesting there might be a connection between Dogecoin's price movements lately and what's happening politically.
Yeah, you're right. It's not every day you see a cryptocurrency reacting to, like, political speculation.
Yeah.
So what are the sources saying specifically?
Well, there's a lot of talk about the potential impact of, Donald Trump maybe coming back, maybe becoming president again.
Okay.
And his relationship with Elon Musk. Some investors seem to believe that if Trump gets reelected and he stays close with Musk, it could create a better environment for cryptocurrencies, and especially for Dogecoin.
So they're kind of betting on a pro-Dogecoin administration. What's the logic there?
Well, it's all about potential policy impacts. Remember, the crypto market is still relatively new, and regulations are constantly changing. So a change in administration could bring new policies that are either good or bad for crypto. And given Musk's, very vocal support for Dogecoin, some investors might be thinking that a Trump presidency with Musk, giving him advice could lead to policies that are favorable to Dogecoin.
That's a pretty bold prediction. I mean, it really shows you how interconnected everything is, like global events, political figures, social media trends. It all seems to play a role in the crypto market.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a reminder that cryptocurrencies don't exist in a bubble. They're influenced by all the same stuff that affects traditional markets.
So for someone like you who's, following this stuff, it's important to keep that in mind, this bigger picture.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got all this political intrigue going on around Dogecoin. But let's not forget, it's also competing in a really crowded marketplace. So how does its projected performance, how does that stack up against, the big players like Bitcoin?
That's a great question. And the sources actually offer some pretty interesting comparisons. So while Bitcoin is often seen as like the gold standard, right? Some analysts are predicting it could reach $100,000 in the future.
Wow.
But Dogecoin's potential, it's arguably even more dramatic in terms of percentage.
I'm not sure I follow. How can Dogecoin, a meme coin, be more dramatic than Bitcoin.
It's all about relative growth. So yeah, $100,000 for Bitcoin, that would be a huge jump from where it is now. But remember, Dogecoin's price is way lower, so even if it just reached $1, which is a big if, that would be a much bigger percentage gain than Bitcoin's potential rise.
So even though Bitcoin's price increase could be bigger, like
Mm.
in actual dollars,
Right.
Dogecoin has the potential for a much higher percentage gain.
Right.
Okay, that makes it, I guess, more attractive on paper. But
Yeah.
but didn't we say earlier that, higher potential gains usually come with higher risks?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that's where we got to be realistic about Dogecoin's weakness. We've talked about this. It doesn't have those real-world use cases.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have the institutional backing that some of its competitors have.
Right, it's still mainly driven by
Yeah.
regular people and social media hype,
Mm.
which can lead to those big price swings
Mhm.
and make it more vulnerable to manipulation.
Exactly. And even though we see that golden cross pattern, which, could be a positive sign, we got to remember those technical indicators aren't perfect.
Right.
They can give us some clues, but they don't guarantee anything.
So it's all about balancing the potential rewards with the risks. It sounds like investing in Dogecoin is not for the faint of heart.
You got that right. It takes careful thought, a good understanding of the market, and a willingness to take some risks.
Okay, speaking of risk, we've talked a lot about Elon Musk
Yeah.
and how much influence he has. It's clear he can, move the market with a single tweet. But what about the long term? Are the sources saying anything about his long-term involvement with Dogecoin?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, there's no easy answer. Yeah, his tweets can send the price up or down like crazy,
Right.
but we don't really know how committed he is to the project in the long run.
So we're all just kind of, hanging on his every word, hoping he doesn't suddenly decide that Dogecoin is, yesterday's news. It seems kind of precarious, to have the fate of a currency tied to one person like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It really highlights how unique this market is and how unpredictable it can be, especially when it comes to, these meme coins like Dogecoin.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Market trends, the political stuff, the Elon Musk factor, the risks and rewards of investing in Dogecoin. So I'm curious, for the average person, what does all this mean? Is Dogecoin something they should consider? Or is it better left to, more experienced investors?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's a question that each person needs to answer for themselves. It depends on their financial goals, their risk tolerance, and how much they understand the crypto market.
So no easy answers here.
Yeah.
It's all about doing your research and making informed decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. Investing in any cryptocurrency, especially one as volatile as Dogecoin, it's not something to take lightly.
Before we move on, I want to touch on something that I find really fascinating about Dogecoin, and that's, how it went from a joke
Yeah.
to a top 10 cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And that's really
It
something.
is, yeah.
It shows the power of online communities
Mm.
and how they can really influence things.
Absolutely.
Dogecoin's journey, it kind of challenges our ideas about value and how we think about investments.
I agree.
It makes us rethink the role of social influence
Yeah.
in the financial world. It's almost like we're seeing this democratization of finance, where everyday people can have a real impact,
That's a way to put it.
even if it's driven by, memes and internet humor.
Yeah. And it raises some big questions about where all of this is going.
It does seem like the rules of the game are changing,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all still trying to figure out how to play.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so exciting. And honestly, a little bit scary, too. It's a wild ride, and nobody knows for sure what's going to happen next.
Okay, so welcome back to our deep dive into Dogecoin.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, exploring all these factors and, trying to figure out where it fits in with everything else that's going on in the crypto world.
Right, exactly.
So before we wrap things up here, I think it would be helpful just to kind of summarize some of the key takeaways.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's recap what we've learned about this meme that turned into, well, something much bigger.
Yeah, so first of all, it's clear that Dogecoin is on fire right now.
Definitely.
It's up, over 200% just this past month?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And we talked about all the things driving that, like market trends, the power of social media, and of course, Elon Musk.
Yeah, his influence is undeniable.
And we also talked about how Dogecoin is, it's really tied to Bitcoin's performance.
Right.
It benefits when Bitcoin is doing well, but it's also vulnerable if Bitcoin drops.
Exactly. There's that close connection there.
And while there's definitely potential for Dogecoin to, reach that $1 mark, we have to remember it's still a pretty risky investment,
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
especially because it doesn't have a lot of real-world uses yet. And
Yeah.
it's really reliant on retail investors, everyday people.
Yeah, and that can make it more volatile, more prone to those big swings.
Right, exactly, which is a big contrast to, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are being used by institutions now.
Right, they're being integrated into all sorts of industries,
Yeah,
which gives them a different level of stability.
right, exactly. And then there's that fascinating connection between Dogecoin and the political world.
Yeah, we talked about, Trump potentially coming back and his relationship with Elon Musk and how that could have an impact on the whole crypto market.
It's another reminder that, crypto isn't isolated. It's affected by all the same things that affect the rest of the world.
Absolutely, it's all connected.
But even with all the risks and the uncertainty around Dogecoin, I think we have to acknowledge the incredible impact of its community.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're passionate, they're dedicated, they're having fun.
And they've played a huge role in its success.
Right, taking it from a joke to a top 10 cryptocurrency.
It's an amazing example of how social influence can actually shape the financial world, and it makes us question some of our assumptions about value and investment.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging some traditional ideas.
So, you know, Dogecoin's story is still being written, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
It definitely will be. Who knows what's next?
Exactly. So before we go, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Yeah, something to ponder.
What if Dogecoin actually does hit $1? What would that mean for all these other meme coins?
Would it make people take them more seriously, or would it just create, an even bigger bubble?
That's a really interesting question, and it's something to think about as you continue to explore, this wild world of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, because things are changing fast, and there's
Yeah.
always something new to discover.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Dogecoin.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit entertaining.
I hope so too.